last part of this review. So now we're getting to sum. So find the first 20 terms of an arithmetic sequence if A equals 5, or if A5 equals 30 and D equals 5. So we gotta use the sum formula if we're doing this. So if you notice, the only thing you really need to find is, well, what is our n? So how many terms do we want to add together? Well, it tells us that right here, 20 terms. So our n is actually like majority of this formula. So s equals 20 divided by 2. Oh, that looks weird. 20 divided by 2. Now the brackets is where it gets tricky. So plus an. Now we want a 20. Remember, we need to figure out what is the 20th term. So we plugged in all information we know right now, and now we got to figure out how to get a1 and how to get a20. Okay, whenever we get this information, we know we might as well use that nifty formula we always like using, which is an equals a1 plus d n minus 1. We are sick of this problem. We always use it and see it. And it's really, really going to help us here, okay? So let's plug in what we know. Remember this A5, this 5 is the n. 30, if you remember, that's our an in this case. When n is 5, when n is 5, an is 30. And our difference right here is 5. So let's plug in the information we know. So 30 equals a1. If you notice, we don't know a1, and that's why we want to find it here. Equals a1 plus our difference, which is 5. And oh, if you notice, our difference and our a is 5 as well. Minus 1. Okay, so there we go. Now, what can we do first here? Again, we can't really add subtract this over yet. The first thing you always do is brackets, so let's do our brackets first. So 30 equals a1 plus, and let's do our brackets. So 5 minus 1 is 4. Let's see, we can't subtract this over yet because we gotta actually multiply this 5 and the 4 out. So let's do that step. So 30 equals a1 plus 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, now we're almost there. We just got to do one more thing. And that is bringing this 20 over to the other side. Now, the only way to bring anything over to the other side is to do the opposite operation. So in this case, the opposite operation would be minus 20. Oops. Minus 20 on that side. Let's see. How can I bring this over here? So we're minus 20 right here. And we also want a minus 20 right here. Okay? So you got a minus 20 from both sides of this equation. So minus 20 here is 0. And 30 minus 20 is 10. So 10 equals a1. So there we go. We found another part of our piece right here. Now we can plug in s equals 20 divided by 2 times a1 we now know to be 10. Plus now we just need to find that last little guy, which is a20. So why don't we actually use this formula again? And what you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of times we're going to use this formula. Yes, it is. Let's use this formula again to find this last guy. So we're trying to find a20 now. That's our last term we need to find. We know that a20 equals a1 plus d and then n minus 1. Perfect. So we don't know what a20 is, so it's going to leave it blank. Equals a1 we know to be 10 plus the difference, which is 5. N, remember, n and n are the same thing, so we're dealing with 20, so our n has to be 20 minus 1. And bedmass tells us, oops, that was weird, I just deleted everything. Great. BedMath tells us we got to do, are we going to add first, multiply first, or brackets? BedMath tells us to do the brackets first. So we got to do the brackets first. 20 minus 1 is 19. Okay. Now our last step, are we going to add 10 plus 5 or 5 times 19? Go to BedMath again, and in BedMath brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. So we wouldn't add first, we would multiply, and 5 times 15 is a whopping plus 95. So then our last step is to just add, and we'll figure out 820. What is 10 plus 95? 105. And there we go. We have our last term in here. So let's plug it in. The sum equals 20 over 2. Bracket 10 is our first term, plus we found our 20th term, which is 105. And now we can solve for sum. We're almost done here. So always do your brackets first. So S equals 20 divided by 2. And our brackets 10 plus 105, well, that is just 115. Our next thing now, are we going to multiply 2 times that or divide? This part's kind of tricky. So in BedMath, it tells us division, multiply. They're kind of like buddy-buddies, they're the same. Whichever happens first, it's usually okay. But in this case, we're going to divide first because we're going to read it like a book. Dividing comes first. So 20 divided by 2 is a whopping 10. Times that by 115. And our last thing, we just got to plug that in. What is 115? Whoops. Times 10. Let's punch that in. 115 times 10 is 1,150. So the sum of all of the first 20 terms of this sequence, just given this information, look at all, just from these 3 pieces of information, we were able to get all these things, okay? So now find the sum of the first 12 terms here. So again, we're using the sum formula. So let's start with the sum formula that we need, and let's see what we know already and what we need to find, okay? So sum equals n over 2, bracket a1 plus a n. Alright, there we go. Now let's always plug in what you want. So we want the sum of the first 12 terms. So that means that we want s equals 12 divided by 2. A1 plus A12. So that's what we need. We need the 12th term here in the first term. Well, actually, silly me, we know the first term is 3. So let's plug that in. So S equals 12 divided by 2, bracket 3 plus A12. There we go. We're just missing this one piece of information. So let's figure out how to get it. And I'm assuming you already know we're going to use this formula we always used. I told you guys are going to hate it because you've seen it so much and you're going to be sick of it. Yeah, remember that formula? AN equals A1 plus D, bracket N minus 1. Now, what do we need to find again? Okay, yeah, we need to find A12. And we know the first term is 3. We don't know the difference, actually. So we're going to leave that blank. And then we are going to do n minus 12, which, since this is 12, n is 12 then. So we need to find the difference. We can't find the difference from this formula because we don't have enough information. Because this is a variable, so we can't really solve for a difference. But if we go back all the way over here, remember when you have a difference, you just minus. Remember to find the difference. That just equals A3 minus A2. So this is a formula we haven't seen since the beginning of the test. So difference will equal, now A3 is 11 and A2 is 7. So 11 minus 7. So the difference equals 4. 11 minus 7 is 4. So let's plug that in. A12 equals 3 plus 4. We just found that out. 12 minus 1. So now let's plug that in. So A12, hopefully we're almost done solving for A12, equals 3 plus 4 times by, what are we going to do first? Brackets always. So times by 11. So A12 equals, now what are we going to do next? So we're going to add 3 plus 4, multiply by 11. Remember with BEDMAS, you always multiply first. So it's going to be 3 plus 44, which is 4 times 10. And look, our last step, we're almost done. A12 equals, well, 3 plus 44 is a whopping 47. So now we know the last thing that we need to know in order to find the sum of the first 12 terms. So 12 divided by 2. 3 plus A12, which we just found A12 to be 47. Yay, if you notice, all the things we've been doing has been working for trying to get sum of terms. That's all I taught you, all these different methods is just in the end game of getting the sum. So again, in BEDMAS, you always do the brackets first. So 3 plus 47 is 50. Next, we're going to divide because of BEDMAS. We're going to divide, then multiply. So sum equals 6 divided by 2, which is, or I gave the answer. 12 divided by 2, which is 6. And we're going to times that by 50. So then the sum is equal to 300. I just double checked my calculator. So yeah, 300. And there we go. Your test is going to look exactly like this. So do this a couple times on your paper. Do it on loose leaf. Get used to doing the process. So I know these don't look exactly like the formula, but remember, I can't really do subscript here. So yeah, hopefully this helps, and good luck tomorrow. See you tomorrow.